everybody. This is Carla, and welcome back to the studio. And thank you for joining me for another episode of Throwback Thursday. So, let me just make sure everything is kind of lined up here. Okay, I think we are good. So, again, welcome to another episode of Throwback Thursday. Throwback Thursdays are my pre-recorded videos where I bring in my retired stash and I create two projects with it. So my Throwback Thursdays have been very well received. I do get a lot of feedback from people saying, oh, I have this whole suite, or maybe I have this stamp set, and now you've inspired me to pull it out and to play with it again. So I'm not only glad in that aspect, but I do have a lot of retired product, and unfortunately, because Stampin' Up! Comes out with new product every so many months, what happens, the stamp set may retire, and then it turns out I've never used the stamp set at all. And that's kind of what's happened when I go to plan out these Throwback Thursdays. So it's also given me the opportunity to pull it out and play with it for the first time for myself. So for this episode, I am bringing the lovely In Linen Suite collection in. It is the lovely and lasting stamp set. And then there is the coordinating lasting label punch. You could see that. I know there's a lot of glare from the lights. Then there is the Quatrefoil tile embossing folder. So I don't know if you can see it very well, out of the package, but this is what it looks like. And this is just a regular embossing folder. It's not one of the 3Ds. And then there is the lovely In Linen Designer Series paper. In this paper, the colors are Evening Evergreen, which was a former In Color Night of Navy, Pale Papaya, and Soft Succulent, and Sweet Sorbet 2 are all previous In Colors that have now since retired. So a lot of fun patterns that are in this designer series paper, and we are definitely using it on both of our projects. So let's move this out of the way and kind of move some other things, and then let's get started. So I'm going to move my punch over here because we're going to need that. So let me get the stuff that we need for our first project. So let me pull that in right here. So one thing that I need to do, and I didn't do it beforehand, I apologize. Hold on one second. I don't have my little cheat sheet opened up to easily tell you what the dimensions of all my pieces are. So let me get that really quick here. Okay, let's take this and let's move this on over. Okay, here we go. All right, so I have a piece of sweet sorbet for my card base. This measures 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it at 4.25. I have a piece of basic white. Excuse me. My piece of basic white, it measures 4.75 by 3.5. Then out of the designer series paper, I have cut out of 3 different patterns. These strips, each one of them measures 4.5 by 1 inch. And then I have, I have a piece of pale papaya. This measures 4 by 5/8, and then I have a scrap of basic white that I will do my stamping on, and then I will be using this lasting label punch on. Okay, so I'm going to start off and I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. Okay, we'll set that aside. I'm also going to bring in let's see, my Stampin' Pierce mat. This is a photopolymer stamp set, so I do want to have a little bit of this cushion, because it's not like our red rubber where there's actual foam on it. So to get a nice stamped image on your photopolymers, using some kind of foam mat will work perfectly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stamp my label first. So for this one, I'm going to bring in my Night of Navy ink, Sweet Sorbet, and Pale Papaya. And I got my stamps sitting over here on the side, so we're all good to go. So I'm going to open these up, and I should be good and not have like any ink catastrophes at all. Okay, so I'm going to take this outline of the punch. I'm going to ink that up in Night of Navy. I'm going to stamp that more over to the left. That way it gives a little bit of cardstock for me to hold on to when I go to punch it out. And then I'm going to take my Sweet Sorbet and ink up Happy Birthday. I want to bring this down a little bit because I do want to get this straight. Okay, it's a little bit crooked, but not too bad. And then there's this little decorative leaf type image here. I'm going to ink that up in Pale Papaya. I'm going to stamp it one right above the happy, and then another one right below the birthday. Okay, now that's all the stamping that we're doing. So let me close these up now. We don't want a mess. Okay, now move those out of the way. And then we'll slide that out of the way and bring in our punch. And then I'll punch that out. So choosing my ink colors, I just look at what colors are in, well, the same thing for the card itself. I just look at what's in the designer series paper, and those are the colors that I choose for my projects. Okay. So now let's kind of put our card together here. So I want to bring in this piece of basic white and my 3 strips of designer series paper. So what I want to do with this, I'm going to adhere it to this panel here, and I want to kind of line these up to get an idea of where I'm going to place them. And then I'm going to bring in my liquid glue, and I'm going to start off with this piece right here. Add some glue in the back. Now you could use your seal as well, but I find that when I'm putting these pieces down, I want to have that little bit of wiggle room to kind of put these in place. And it's kind of hard to do that with the seal itself. You're able to do a little bit of adjusting like so. Okay, and then we'll do this piece over here. Okay, and I really like this pattern here. Okay, put that there. Okay, that looks like it's lined up. And then let's do this piece here. And then this will go right in the middle. A little tip, if you have strips of designer series paper or cardstock that you want to put down, to have an equal distance between those strips. If you put the two outer ones on first, then you can center your middle piece like so. Okay, so there is that. Let's bring in our card base. Close this up. And then I'm going to bring in my seal. And we'll add some to the back of this piece here. We'll center this onto our card base. Like so. Okay, and then this piece of pale papaya. Add some adhesive to the back of this. And then this will come right across about, let's bring it up a little bit, about here. That looks about good. I want to kind of center this, make sure it's straight. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in, this is the Night of Navy bordered ribbon. You look at this ribbon and you look at this particular pattern right here where you have, you know, your dark navy and then you kind of have this lighter bit. This ribbon really resembles that. I think that's really, really cool. Okay, so then I'm going to take my seal and I'm just going to come across. I'm not going to go all the way over, but I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to go straight across like so. I'm going to get my snips, and these I use just for ribbon. That's why I got that little piece of ribbon on there. And then I'm going to trim this at an angle like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. This ribbon does fray very easily. Okay. Move that out of the way. Let's get this. Can't remove that pin. We don't want to lose that. Okay, and then I'm going to take my greeting here and I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. I apologize for my arm going right underneath the camera like that. And then I'll add a few of these. Okay, and then we'll take this and we'll center this right over that pale papaya piece. Like so. Okay, and then for another bit of embellishment, I'm going to add a little bit of bling. This is the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. This color I'm thinking is Night of Navy. It's been a while, and unfortunately on the packaging, they don't print what colors are in it. And one time they used to put it in the catalog, but now they don't do that. The only way to know exactly what colors are in an embellishment is by going to the online store and looking that item up. So to me, these look like Night of Navy, so this is what we're going to use. So there's 3 different sizes in these, so I'm going to use one of each of them. And let's see, we'll put one right over here, and then there's a tiny one, and we'll stick that one right there. Okay, so there is our first card. I just really like how this comes together, all these three different patterns just all the colors work very well together on this one. Okay, so now let me get all the stuff we need for our second card. Okay, pull all this in. Okay, so for my card base, it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. This is basic white thick. I have another piece of that designer series paper. It measures the whole size of the front of my card base, so it's 5.5 by 4.25. I then have another piece of basic white. This measures 5 by 3 3/4, and then I have a scrap of basic white as well. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold and burnish this. Okay, and then let me get my liquid glue in. And when you're adhering designer series paper to the whole front of your card, liquid glue definitely is the best bet, because if you use seal and you put this down, then a lot of times you don't get it lined up right, on that very first try. And then, of course, then you're trying to rip the thing off without damaging the paper or your card base. So I always use liquid glue to do this particular step. I don't usually do cards where you put paper on the whole front of the card base, but I have learned that I have all of this designer series paper that I basically have been hoarding because, it's too pretty, and it's retired and you can't get it anymore. But let's be real, people. I have a lot of paper now. And so I'm getting better on actually using this paper, and instead of just holding on to it, and it just sits in a tote just looking all pretty. So we're using the paper. So let me quickly go and clean some of these stamps here. And this one too. All right. Let me set that aside, and let me close up my liquid glue here. Okay, so then on this piece here, this is going to be for our punch out. So for this, I'm going to bring in both Evening Evergreen and Soft Succulent, and then I'm also going to use Pale Papaya. Okay, so on this piece, I'm going to bring in my Soft Succulent. We'll just open these all up. Okay. I'm going to take that dotted outline again of that punch. I'm going to ink this up in my Soft Succulent. And I'm going to stamp this over here again towards the left. And then I'm going to take my Thank You, and I'll ink that up in the Evening Evergreen, which I think is like the perfect green for doing Christmas cards. I apologize. I don't know why every time I go and I hit record and when I'm filming, that it's like my voice gets like all scratchy and all that. It's very annoying, actually. All right, so then I'm going to stamp this right in the middle. Okay, now it'll dry a little bit lighter, but that is like a really dark hunter green. Okay, so we'll close up Evening Evergreen because we don't need this anymore. Okay, and let's get the punch. And we'll punch out our thank you. Okay, we'll set that aside. And then on this piece, I'm going to bring in this really large floral image. And I'm going to ink this up in my pale papaya. Make sure I got all the spots on there. And then I'm going to stamp this, kind of center it, but I'm going to go more towards the top of this piece of cardstock. Now my pale papaya is a little bit inky because you can see like all the spots on there. That's the ink that's kind of bubbling up a little bit because it's a little too inky. But it'll be okay because there's another step that we're going to do with this after we're done stamping on it. So then there's this little greenery piece right here. I want to stamp these a few times. I'm going to put one right here. We'll take one and put it up here. And another one down there. Oh, and I got ink on there. Flip it over. Let's do it again. Get that up. And then stamp that. That's why there's two sides to each piece of cardstock, right? Looks like I missed a spot. Oh, it is what it is, right, guys? I'm not going to cut any more cardstock. I mean, it's handmade, not Hallmark, right? Then I'll put another one here. Yeah, there's ink that got on the corner of the block, so I accidentally touched it, so that's why that happened. Okay, so let me try not getting ink all over my hands. Okay, now for this step, usually I do things like this ahead of time to save some time. However, I needed to stamp first. So I am going to emboss this piece here using the Quatrefoil tile embossing folder. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then since this is a regular embossing folder and it's not a 3D, the sandwich that I would need for this is my number 1 base plate and then the 2 number 3 cutting plates. So let me, one of these is like warped pretty bad, so all right. So I want that one on the bottom. All right, so I'm going to take this stamp piece here and I'm going to line this up. Now I'm probably way too close to this camera. So there is a printed line that's on the embossing folder. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up with that line. Okay, close it up. Put it down on our plate. Let's get our other one here. Put that down. Okay, and then we'll run this through. And I apologize for the shaking. I do have my camera stand attached to the very same table I'm working on. I have it, excuse me, I have a table on the other side. Unfortunately, I'm not able to clip it to that and then have the stand point in this direction. So let me get this out of the way. Okay, now let's bring in all of our pieces here. And let's see, is there anything else in here that I need? Okay, we'll pull that out too. All right, so I'm going to bring in my liquid glue, and I'm going to attach this embossed piece down to my card base. Okay. And I'm just going to have that little bit of a border of that designer series paper showing, not shining, showing around that. Okay. Then I'm going to take some of my seal. I'm going to add it right here in the center, right underneath these flowers. And I'm going to bring in my pale papaya open weave ribbon. And I'm going to use my label here just to get an idea of how long of a piece I need. Okay, and let me get scissors. Okay. Then I take this and I grab all pieces of it, and then I'm gonna stick that down into the adhesive like so, and then I can peel it up a little bit. I can adjust it like so, and let's take this and kind of move it over just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals, add some on here. Again, I don't know why my voice and all that gets like this every single time I record. Every time. Okay, and then I'll center this right over, make sure my card base is straight, and I'll put that right over my ribbon like so, and I don't need to trim it because it's a good size right there. So we're done with that ribbon. And then for embellishments, I'm going to bring in the Iridescent Rhinestones Basic Jewels. These things, I love these because they are transparent. And so whatever you put these on top of, they're going to pull in, you can see through them. So it's going to pull through that color that's behind them. So I really, really like these. When they were retiring, I made sure that I bought a lot of packages of these, just so that way I had them for when I wanted, when I wanted this kind of iridescent embellishment on it. So I'm going to take one of the medium-sized ones and put it in this larger bloom, and then the smaller one will go right over this little one. Okay, so excuse me again. So there is the second card. So really pretty, showcasing some of that designer series paper on this one as well. So let me bring in the first one. So here's our first one. We used 3 different patterns. So we kind of got this red, white, and blue along with pale papaya on this one. And then you can see that this ribbon just ties in with this print of paper really, really well. And then we have this one where we stamped on our panel, and then we embossed that panel using that Quatrefoil embossing folder. So if you like the projects that I had made in this episode, please give the video a thumbs up, uh, like and share if you would like to. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel and then hit that notification bell. That will let you know whenever I post a pre-recorded video or when I go live. I will be going live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I will be featuring the, what am I featuring? Um, Hold on, I'll let you know here in a second. Florals in Bloom suite of products. So this is a new suite that's in our new annual catalog that went live on May 6th. And the projects are like really super cute and bright and cheery. So would love to have you join me and some of my friends that join me every Friday night. What I do at the end of my lives, I do a giveaway of the cards that I made that night. So we do like this wheel of names. Now, if you can't make the live, there's always the replay. I appreciate, all of the, um, the likes and all the thumbs up. That's what they use on there, is thumbs up. Also, in the description of this video, I also have a few links. So we still have some items that are in our last chance products. Some things are discounted. Uh, we also, like I mentioned, we do have a new annual catalog. If you are here in the United States and you're not working with another demonstrator and you would like a paper copy of that, my email address is below. Simply send me an email with your full name and mailing address, and I'll be more than happy to get one mailed out to you. Also, we have a starter kit special that's currently going on until the 31st of May. And there's a little bit of a description of that. You get to choose extra product in during this special. Also, if you have any questions whatsoever about becoming a demo, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have about that. To be a demo, you don't necessarily have to do what I'm doing, where you're holding classes and doing videos. You can simply enjoy that 20% discount on your crafting projects. I also have a monthly newsletter that I typically send out like the first Tuesday of the month. And in my newsletters, I give you a whole breakdown of what my video content is going to be for that month. Also, anything that I may be doing here in person, here in the studio. Also, what Stampin' Up! May be offering. And then I also include info about that month's paper pumpkin kit and what new kits that Stampin' Up! Is offering in their kits collection. So if you're interested in the newsletter, the link for that is also below in the description. And I typically only send those out, like I said, once a month. Now, the only time I may send it again is if Stampin' Up! Has some kind of special that's going on that we didn't know about when I initially went to send out that newsletter. So, again, if you would like to receive my newsletter, the link for that is below in the description. So, with that, everyone, I hope that you will be able to join me tomorrow night. Those projects are super cute. If not, the replay is always there. And next Thursday, I will be back with another Throwback Thursday, and I will be featuring a fish and a wish bundle. So that's the stamp set and its coordinating punch. So until then, everybody stay safe and have a blessed one. Bye bye.